Okay, so let's review the key terms from this lesson. The absolute value function is y equals the absolute value of x. That function is a piecewise function because it's made up of two functions. And piecewise functions aren't only two, it could be two or more. The absolute value function happens to be piecewise precisely in that when x is greater than or equal to 0, so we have a domain of bigger than 0, then the absolute value of x equals just x. And when x is less than or equal to 0, then the absolute value of x equals negative x. So you have two different functions defining it depending on which side of 0 you're on, or depending on if the value of x is greater than or less than 0. Step functions remember, they go up like steps, and you never know which side is going to have an open dot and which side is going to have a filled in dot. Hopefully you noticed that in our example. But I kind of broke the rules here. I put two filled in dots above each other. We'll just pretend this is an open dot. Okay. So, whatever. So what's happening here is that every value in this interval is paired with just one output. So if we had like 1 to 2, that would all give us an output of 1, potentially. So we can say that it pairs every number in an interval with a single value. Okay. And step function is probably the least important. I hate to play favorites, but it's probably the least important thing in this unit, or in this lesson. Okay, so translation is probably the most important thing. It's in the title of the lesson. It's not in the title of the lesson, but it's what the lesson is all about. So, a translation is a shift horizontally and vertically, or, and we haven't seen this yet, but or both. And so I'm going to give you a little hint as you go forward here. We saw that to shift something horizontally, we would add or subtract a value inside the absolute. And that was the kind of counterintuitive one. And this is going to come back because we're going to learn to translate all the different functions. So this is something it's not something you can forget. It's not something that applies just to absolute value. It's something that applies to all families of functions. So linear functions, absolute value functions. Then we'll look at some quadratic functions, maybe cubic functions, maybe trigonometric functions. So this is something that'll come back again and again and again. It's an important thing to understand. So if we add something inside these absolute value brackets, it's a horizontal shift, and we add something outside, then it's a vertical shift. And if we add something inside and outside, we could shift it horizontally and vertically at the same time in one equation. So to wrap this lesson up, we're going to do you're going to figure out some stuff based on what you know. So first, we're going to try translating this graph of y equals negative the absolute value of x, which looks like this. So what will the transformations of that graph look like? You can think carefully about it. You can even create a table. If you're not sure, you could create an xy table where you put different values of x into this function and plot some points to help you make sure your answer is correct. Wrong button. There we go. Sorry. We are also now going to give you that same negative absolute value of x and say, can you write the equation for a shift 2 units up or 2.25 units left? So use what you learned to write the equation for that. Now we have what we were talking about. We have something that has -1 inside the absolute value and +2 outside the absolute value. So use what you've learned to determine how these functions will look on the graph with their having a horizontal and vertical translation. And finally, and this is maybe the most important thing you're going to learn in this lesson, is to make a general statement. So first, look at what is the vertex of this. And then if you can figure out the vertex of this, then what does that mean about the vertex for any numbers, h and k? And it's interesting here that there's a minus inside the absolute value and a plus outside the absolute value. And there's a reason for that. So go through those and see what you discover. And then that's the end of the lesson. Good work. And I will see you the next time I make an algebra video. Bye.